Any true bonsai enthusiast loves that first repot of spring. And here it is, this Hawthorn Stump. Love them or hate them, they got those spines all over them. We've got to do something about it and get it out of this and hopefully, maybe, put it into this. But you'll only find out if you keep watching. First repot of the year. It's got to be worth a look at. Hi, yeah, it's Xavier and welcome to my bonsai retreat. I know, it's still winter and the hat's on. Well, that's only because the sun over there is blaring straight across my face. So if we have a bit of continuity issues and this comes on and off, it's because of the sun. Ow. Hawthorn, they've got thorns on them. You wouldn't know it by the name, would you? I need to get a plaster now. I've got bleeding on my finger. Seriously though, I think you saw this at some point last year when I did some cutback and everything. Look at it, it's magnificent. It's got loads of spiny, curly branches all over it. And suddenly, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I thought to myself, Zav, it's time to do some work. So we're going to get it out of this, which is the pot that I got it when I first purchased it, way back in 2022 at the Doncaster Bonsai Festival or whatever. And I'm going to have a look and see if those roots are any good. But truthfully, I like the look of this one. So what am I going to put it in? Well, I'm not sure. Hopefully that. It's deep, but I'm not sure it's got the width that I need for those roots. But I won't know for sure until I get it out of the soil and find out just how much of those I can take away. But never fear, I've got a backup plan. And tell you what, if you've got any trees where you're a little bit uncertain whether the pot you really want is going to cut the grade, always make sure you have a backup. Something a little bit bigger, and in this case, it's just a straightforward plastic oval pot. With this, I know for sure that I can get that in the exact front that I want. Now, the first thing I'd advise anyone who's working with hawthorn or anything which is a little bit prickly, not being someone that you love of course, is that what we should do probably is remove some of these spiky bits which we know we're not going to want, which are only going to get in the way and cause us serious discomfort or indeed blinding injuries. Thankfully I've got glass to stop the eye poker. So I'm just going to cut some of these out of the way, get rid of some of those spikes, and once I've done that I'll come back to you and find out exactly what's in the pot. Okay, well I'll try my best. Got a few thorns in the skin and in the face, but removed tons and tons of these long growth, long shoots, and all of them have got these sort of 2-inch long razor wire spikes. Cut most of them off the tree there, and as I've gone along I've also done a little bit of just pruning back to some selected buds. A couple of things I want to look at in a minute, but first of all, there you go, there it is. So here we go, for the first proper tree of the year. Let's see how it comes out. And I think we've already discovered something straight away. It's been in that pot for 2 years, 3 years maybe. I would not expect it to come out like that. I'd expect it to come out as a nice matted growth of lots and lots of roots. And I think I found this with the silver birch as well. Sometimes when we pick up material from places that we don't know where they've got it from or where they've dug it up from or what they've actually put it in, we need to probably explore a bit earlier. And yeah, I think this will do well for coming out of what it is in there and putting it into something much better, which of course will be my magic mix of, say it's not a magic mix, of 1 centimetre pumice, zeolite. I've got some activated charcoal and some Oceana root boost. And of course, for those of you who know me, I've got my Bobcat root rake. Not sure if he's still doing videos, but he certainly makes some fantastic root rakes. And I like this because it's got a twisty wisty there, which seems to help with these. So we can very, very gently and carefully find out exactly what's going on in the engine room of this magnificent Yamadori Hawthorn. For those of you who want to see more about removing soil from roots, there's loads of fantastic videos in my Bonsai Basics playlist, so I'll direct you to that, because yeah, I think we'll come back to this one. We've got some twisty ones. We've got some roots here, but yeah, I'll come back to you when I've got all the soil off. Not as good as I hoped. Great big hunk of rotting wood under there. And that's not a good sign. That's all rotting there. Okay, well, I've got a lot of the rubbish off there, and there's certainly, at least I have got a root structure of sorts. I mean, certainly the tree isn't going to die or anything, and it may be a bit slow this year. And in terms of that rot, no obvious other signs of it, but with that in mind, I was hoping to remove one of these big ones here or one of these here. I will take off this one here, perhaps, one of these upper ones, because we never have them anyway. So that's what we've managed to get. Could I wash it and wash it completely clean? Yeah, of course I could, but truthfully, there is not a lot of muck or mud on there. I've just used a fine chopstick and just slowly teased. I have got one root coming back on itself. That will make an absolute perfect root cutting. But in fact, there'll be something about that in another week or two. So if you want to see how you can get the best out of root cuttings, keep watching, but not this episode. Okay, well, I'm not going to take you through the ins and outs of drainage and that, but needless to say, there's some drainage screen in the bottom of this. As I say, it's just a straightforward plastic, relatively cheap training pot. And do you know what? For most of the time, the best place for your bonsai trees while they're in development is indeed plastic stuff. You don't need to spend loads of money, because all you're looking now is developing the tree, developing the roots. The pot is that final bit when you put it in and you go, oh, it's like the icing on a cake. Just gives that final, yeah, we like that. As I said, I've got my mix of pumice and zeolite. It's big grain, so it's 1.2 centimeters. I've also mixed in some vermiculite, which you know I use because I like to have that extra moisture keeping, moisture retention, and that's about it. So I'm going to chuck this in there. And you know when they say bonsai is pretty low cost, probably, depending on what your situation is, this is the one time when you make the decision, I love that tree, I want to give it the best possible chance. If you can get yourself some pumice, akadama, zeolite, or whatever of those non-organic mixes you like, then invest in it. Certainly on a stump that will one day be a real potential show tree. Anyway, let me get the rest of this stuff here. Try not to poke yourself out with wire. And the usual, keep it up in the middle. Then we're going to offer the tree to the pot. I love that, offer the tree. Sounds ever so posh, that does. And for the astute amongst you, you'll notice that actually some of these roots were starting to dry out. It's not a big issue, but truthfully it's something you try want to avoid. And I am going to try and sort these roots out so that you get a decent spread of them. And then all I'm going to do is run a wire across the top and across here to secure it, and I will use some oxygen tubing from a fish tank to protect that. Okay, well I've got that in now, a little bit of padding in different areas, and all the roots are covered. And now really all we need to do is make sure we've got lots of soil in and amongst underneath this, so that we give this tree a fighting chance to really push on. Now, recognising that we've got nowhere near the roots that I actually expected, I was supposed to be giving you a surprise shock, wonderful mat of roots. It hasn't. That does mean that, in my experience, this tree will probably sulk a bit this year and spend a year brooding and getting a really bit upset with me. But I reckon in 2026, this will explode. Okay, well there it is, just under an hour to get it done. I've given the pot a little bit of a wipe, but overall, yeah, could have done with more roots, but certainly it's not dangerous. I I love the fact I've got it in this bigger oval training pot. It's going to stay in this now for, I reckon, at least 5 years, which means I need to make sure I keep track of that. And we all know how I do that. I use my Bonsai app, my Microsoft Access, and just as a quick reminder, especially to those of you who haven't got it, have a look in the description. You'll find out how you can get it, free to use, and trust me, well over 50 people around the world are using it, and most of them seem pretty happy with it. So I'm going to open up the app, relatively easy. Select there the action tab. There we go, find it, Hawthorn. We can search through a whole range, just put in H, there it is. I've got 4, looks like I've got 4 there, but the one we're interested in is this one. It's got the old picture, you'll notice, so we'll need to do something about that, but all we need to do is go down, and yeah, we've got entries relevant to it, price I've paid, all that sort of stuff, and we just need to add in something there about the repot. I might mention the fact that the roots are pretty ropey, just to remind me not to go digging, and I think we'll go for a 2030 repot date. So if I go back to my reminders, I'll get a reminder in 5 years time in March saying this one needs a repot. Oh gosh, I know what I need to do. I need to update the photograph. I can do that easily, and again I catalog my photographs in a separate set of files, and there we go, we've got the updated photographs. So anyway, I'm sure some of you, it's wetting your lips to try and get hold of this. I'll remind you, I don't charge anyone, and I've been using it absolutely without problem for well over 5 years now. It's a simple program, a lot of work done by my daughter, and give it a try. Just check out the description. I think sometimes many of us, me included, can get a bit trigger happy when it comes to repots, and we start thinking, well, not every year, maybe I'll do it every second year or the third year. Look, this is a big trunk. This first year we are not going to get much root growth there. Second year we'll start seeing it. Third year, what I want is when I take that out, I want it to be a comprehensive mat of new fine fibrous roots. And the only way we know it's going to be like that, when either the soil has broken down and we've lost percolation, or it starts pushing the tree up out of the pot. One of the great reasons for doing a repot. This will not need it for at least 5 years. So let's enjoy it in this, and let's start building this structure. Is there anything I need to do right now? Yeah, I could cut down and shorten things a bit. I could have a look where I've got 2s or 3s coming from different places, and certainly if I look here, just here, there is a clear idea of exactly what I mean by that. Just here we've got this one that's coming upwards, and what you'll notice is from here there's actually a lovely thinner one coming on the horizontal plane. So that's the case where we've got 2 from the same point making 3 from the same junction. This is the sort of stuff we do right now in late winter, early spring. Let's remove this big hunk there, like that. And it goes without saying that anything I remove, if I want more cheap bonsai, poke that in some soil, it'll be fine. But do a dozen of them to be sure. Here, have a look. I can actually see that I've got a bud perfectly there. So I'm actually going to cut back to there, and I'll go around as I would do with any other tree and cut this back. So come back to you when it's done. And there you go, I've taken this right down, taken those back a bit. There's one that's coming up here, we had the same thing here, one that's coming up. Basically all I've done is taken anything that's in 3s that's coming up and out again. I want to just get initially just a streamline horizontal set of growth, as you can see here. Hopefully that explains. Now you'll notice that I've got a few wounds that have opened up. That's what our cut paste is for. If you haven't got that and you can't afford to get anything else, got some Vaseline or petroleum jelly, it's just as good. It doesn't have all the little chemical bits that promote healing or promote growth or cell division and stuff like that. Still does the job, seals the wound, stops yuckies getting in and moisture getting out. So don't panic if you can't afford that, use some of that.
Anybody here have some Vaseline?
And equally, just because you haven't got that but you've only got some putty, that's fine. Roll a little bit of putty balls and apply that. Main aim, seal the wounds. And truthfully, if you haven't got anything to seal the wounds with, again, don't worry. you look out in nature, the hedge trimmers are going out while the trees still live. You might have a little bit of dieback somewhere, but it's not going to be the end of your bonsai. So don't worry if you haven't got it or you forget to do it. I've done cutting like this before and I've never got around to sealing the wounds, and they've been perfectly fine. So there you go. That is my first proper repot for 2025. It had to be done because I needed to get this out of its original pot to investigate and discover the roots. That was my reason. I also wanted to get into something slightly bigger, or if I was able to take more roots off, something slightly smaller. That was the reason. Always have a reason for doing a repot. In the end, there's probably about 8 pounds worth of soil in there, so it's not something you want to be doing lightly. And in terms of soil mixers, I've got videos about soil mixers, but truthfully, in this day and age, it costs money. Do what you can afford. If you can get a bit of inorganic, small grit, sort of 4 to 5 mil grit, perfect. Mix it up with some John Innes general compost, things like that. Bit of vermiculite or perlite. I was using that as a potting soil mix for years and years and years. Trees perfectly fine. And then the other thing to do now is to give it a good water. Get all that grainy stuff out. And what we want to make sure we're doing is all that brown, sludgy slurry that's come from the dust off these pumice and perlite. You want it out of the pot and onto the concrete. So I will do this 2 or 3 times and then put it somewhere nice in the garden. Okay, well, I've got that off to a protected part of the garden because we don't want wind wreaking havoc with it or anything, but I don't think we need to worry too much about the sun baking it, so that'll be fine down the bottom of the garden. And the only hawthorn you're really going to see next, very, very soon, is this one. Notice it's got the green buds have actually come out. It's one of the few that I've got in the garden that are actually starting to come out, and you start panicking saying, is it too late to repot? Do you know what? If you look at a lot of the professionals, me included, we'll be repotting for the next 4 weeks, mainly because of volume of trees. All that happens is the more leaf growth you gets coming out, perhaps the less roots you might do, the less roots you might take off. But truthfully, often what happens is you'll get this initial flush, and then we're going to get our false spring, i.e. we're going to get a week of frost. A lot of these get killed off or goes dormant again, and it could be another 2 weeks afterwards before we start seeing a proper flush come out. In the UK, certainly you can quite happily be repotting all the way through March and into April across a broad range of trees. And for your evergreens, certainly like your Chinese elms, my evergreen Chinese elms or anything like that, you can move them quite happily into April. Oaks are always one of the last to do. But the only reason you're going to see me doing this is because I want the pot. And why do I want the pot? Come in close, I'll show you. It's going to be a treat, and it's going to be something you're going to want to see. 2 years ago, I took the advice of Yellow growing bonsai and did some air layers on my Cascade Maple, and this was one of them. And it's going to be trained as a cascade. And I think I said last year in a video that wouldn't that look good in that pot? So if you want to see if it does indeed look good, you need to keep watching. Make sure you're subscribed, all that sort of stuff. And you think anyone else would like to see this lovely Cascade Maple get repotted into this, then make sure you tell them. Share it on social media. And again, if you're worried about the buds already starting to come out, which they have here, don't. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Anyway, that's all for the future, including the full update on 12 months worth of hawthorn root cuttings, which you're going to see. And otherwise, if you want to see more about, say, this interesting Tony's split trunk hawthorn, then that's the video I suggest you watch next. Apart from that, happy bonsaiing, God bless. Cheers.